From the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks, this is Studio One.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Studio One. I'm Morgan Goulding.
And I'm Kari Strandberg.
Today on the show, the Credit Bureau Experience says 40 million Americans have at least one outstanding student loan. We'll talk to a woman who helps college students achieve financial wellness during their expensive educational years.
Also, a lecture in front of a large audience is a staple setup in many college classrooms. One professor's desire for student success has him switching up his style. But first, with elections only a year away, many wondered if Vice President Joe Biden would run for the position of Commander-in-Chief. The speculation ended this week when Biden announced he would not run for president. As an elder statesman, Biden will embrace his role and continue to speak out and influence the Democratic Party. Even though he offered no endorsements, he made it clear that Democrats should embrace President Obama. Hillary Clinton gains the most from Biden's withdrawal. She's already seen a bump in the polls. With the holiday season approaching, Legos may be in higher demand. The Danish toy maker in charge of Legos says it will run short this Christmas. Demand for these childhood building blocks rose after the release of the Lego movie last year. The company plans to expand to meet the need, but the expansion won't be fully operational until 2020. While taking out the garbage, you may not think twice about tying up the strings and throwing it out. But as consumers, you may be surprised by how much trash you're really making. A study by Yale University shows the amount of garbage we're tossing is more than double the EPA projections. In 2012, 289 million tons of solid waste was thrown away. This translates to Americans throwing out 5 pounds of garbage daily per person. Many companies understand their role and have started to promote recycling with the idea of take-back programs.
We do think of things as disposable, and even electronics now, but I think there's more and more awareness. We have more and more calls asking for recycling options.
Munson sees the future of conserving trash revolving around the idea of converting waste into energy. She believes we'll see more development in the next 10 to 20 years.
A threat is targeting 1 in every 14 Americans, and it doesn't discriminate by age or gender. The Department of Justice says identity theft affected 18 million people last year, mostly targeting bank accounts and credit cards. Most people didn't know there was a problem until they were contacted by their financial institution. Only 1 in 5 people actually noticed there was something wrong with their account. Experts say if you see something strange in your bank account, make sure to address the problem as soon as possible.
College students are used to a lecture bowl as their primary place to learn. Now, a new method of teaching is turning the traditional classroom on its head.
Done. Please make sure that everybody who is here has their name on the outside of that quiz.
Chris Felege brings a certain energy and enthusiasm to the biology classroom.
I can tell that he really wants us to do well.
That passion has grown with the introduction of the flipped classroom.
I absolutely love it, and I would do everything that I could to never go back. I'm convinced that my students get more out of it.
Flipped classrooms have gained popularity over recent years. This method has students look at short video lectures before the class session, while the in-class time is devoted to exercises, projects, or discussions. Many agree this strategy brings a lot more group work into play.
As opposed to a lecture bowl or something, I just feel like I go there, I get the information, and then I'm kind of just left to deal with it. But here I'm retaining the information.
Communication with classmates is key, and the flipped model gives way to life after school.
I think most students come here and hope to get a college education because it will prepare them for a job or a career where they'll be successful. Most of those are jobs or careers where you have to collaborate, you have to communicate. And in a traditional lecture, you get almost no practice, almost no experience with that. Here, they have to.
This new teaching style is not only building future collaborators, it's also simply making the learning experience more fun.
My all-time favorite one was, I used to hate science, and I still hate science, but this class made me hate science a little less.
This biology professor believes his upside-down way of teaching is bringing the best of both worlds together. This is Taylor Nelson reporting for Studio One.
Flipped classrooms got their start in 2007 when 2 Colorado high school teachers discovered software to record PowerPoint presentations. And that's the news for now.
Thanks, Kari. Let's go now to Emily Pogatshnik for the weather news. Emily?
Thanks, Morgan. Here in the weather studio this week, we've been taking a look at Typhoon Kapu and what that's been doing to the Philippines. The Philippines, they are situated in the Western Pacific, and they're frequently hit by typhoons. Typhoon Kapu in particular has been driving tens of thousands of people from their homes, and towns are reportedly cut off due to landslides and flooding. And that's the biggest issue that they're trying to deal with this typhoon, is the flooding due to the heavy rains that are coming down. Some people were even forced onto their rooftops to escape the high waters. And about a little more than 500,000 people have been directly affected by this typhoon. Now I'm going to take you down to the Philippines so everybody knows exactly where they are and talk a little bit about how typhoons are formed. Typhoons, they're very similar to hurricanes in the fact that they're pretty much the same thing. This part of the world, though, just calls them typhoons. We in the United States call them hurricanes. And to form a typhoon, you need warm sea surface temperatures that really feeds the core of the typhoon, little to no wind at the surface as well, and some pre-existing disturbances. Now, the Pacific Ocean has been pretty active so far, which really helps with the formation of typhoons. Kapu, in particular, started out over in Guam and moved in a westerly direction towards the Philippines, and that's a little bit different than what we see in the United States. We're used to our weather systems moving from west to east, not east to west. And pumpkins, they are the staple of all things fall, but it's been a little bit drier than average in the Midwestern states where they grow. And we talked to a pumpkin farmer on what that does for his crops.
You can expect excited kids, hay rides, and much more to explore at Nelson's Pumpkin Patch.
We're always adding new things. We added a pumpkin bounce house this year, a grain bin with corn in it for the kids to play in, kind of like a sandbox.
It all started with Todd's wife and her pumpkins.
She grew 4 pumpkin plants one year and brought her class out to see them. So we just kind of added a few things, and it's grown since then.
Although the North Dakota weather does make it difficult sometimes.
Last year we had too much rain, too much cold weather. We hardly had any pumpkins at all. This year the weather was good and probably had the best crop we've ever had.
Too much rain can soften pumpkins and introduce disease to the crop. They are also sensitive to the cold. Todd says there are ways to increase chances for a better crop.
We just try and plant plenty of acres of pumpkins to make sure we have enough in case the weather is bad.
And no one could be happier for a bumper crop than the hundreds of families who go through his patch each year. With photographer Taylor Nelson, I'm Mike Rouser, reporting for Studio One.
And there is an easy way to tell if your pumpkins are ripe. It's if you thump on the skins and you hear a hollow sound. And that brings us to our weather question of the week. What state grows the most pumpkins in the United States? Is it Ohio, Illinois, California, or Pennsylvania? Now, Morgan, this state has a town where about 90% of the country's pumpkin crops are grown in a 90-mile radius.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Thanks, Emily. Now Kari has a story about the latest aviation trends. Kari?
Thank you, Morgan. For today's college students, it's common to switch majors. A shortage of commercial airline pilots may have some students taking off on a new career path.
Students looking for excitement, exploration, and adventure may find that flying an airplane is the perfect kind of rush. Morgan Maxwell has been a thrill seeker from the start.
It was a different experience. Like, everyone else was going to high school and I was getting in a small airplane and actually getting to fly it. So that was really awesome. And just to see the whole perspective of the world is a lot different from the air.
There will soon be high demand for people like Morgan. Flight experts say that an estimated 20,000 jobs will open up in U.S. airlines by the year 2022.
Right now, worldwide, we are facing a serious pilot shortage, and that's not just in the United States, that's throughout the whole world.
But a pilot shortage isn't the only concern that some have within the aviation industry.
I think the issue is, we need to be attracting and bringing more females into the program from the get-go, and once they're in the program, then they're very successful.
Elizabeth says some females may be drawn away because of stereotypes of a pilot's lifestyle.
You're on the road a lot, and it's hard to raise a family and do all that, but then you look at it, a large percentage of flight attendants are female, and it's the same exact lifestyle.
While a career as a pilot may be intimidating to some young women, others don't let anything stop them.
Go for it. There's so many girls that come here and quit, and it's kind of sad to see, so it'd be awesome just to like get girls in the industry and stick with it. You can fly and do whatever else you want to do.
With a little determination, your future could take flight. I'm Abbie Glockner, reporting for Studio One.
Elizabeth says the industry is currently on the front edge of the pilot shortage, so right now is the perfect time for students to get started in aviation. Morgan, I think that looks like a great major to have. It'd be really hard to be away from your family that often, but it'd be fun to travel the world.
Yeah, and it definitely seems like it's their passion.
I agree.
Thanks, Kari. Experts say the average college student is almost $30,000 in debt after graduation. Next, we'll speak to a woman whose goal is to help keep this number as low as possible.
Closed captioning for Studio One is underwritten in part by NDAD, helping others to help themselves.
For me to go to college, it was a big step, knowing that I'm pursuing a better future for myself. When you know that you have a small system there that you can still find comfort in, it really makes a difference. The support here and everything that they offer for us, you know, the tutors, the free meals, the family, the friends, basically just somewhere for you to relax and be comfortable and find that home feeling again.
Yeah, okay, science meets imagination. Life changed by innovation. Through the future of our nation. Engineers the occupation. UND College of Engineering and Mines. Invest in your mind to stay with the times. Formulas, machines, and all that's in between. They teach it all from wall to wall to help you succeed. Come on, it could be electrical, chemical, or civil. Our world-class staff will help you make it all official. Mechanical, petroleum, geology align at the
UND's College of Engineering and Mines.
Okay, become a leader, prove yourself among all your peers. Changing the world begins right here. You're not alone, but in the plan, we'll take your hand and help you stand with mentorship and advising. We'll do all we can. Okay, so if you want to join the party, simply calculate. The math adds up, so never think to hesitate. Education, leadership, and dreams combine at the UND College of Engineering and Mines.
Closed captioning for Studio One is supported in part by the Listen Center, enriching the lives of people who have intellectual disabilities with choices in community recreation.
As the 2016 presidential race heats up, one issue is getting a lot of attention. Student loans are a growing concern for recent college graduates and the nation. Coordinator of UND's Financial Wellness Center program, Renee Nilsson, works with students to prevent some of that post-grad stress. Thanks for joining us today, Renee.
Thanks, Morgan.
So first off, do you want to tell us what is the purpose of the Financial Wellness Center here at UND?
So our purpose for the program is actually pretty holistic. So we do talk a lot about student loans with students who come in about borrowing student loans, repaying those student loans, borrowing responsibly, but we also talk about budgeting, credit. I noticed that earlier in your segment you mentioned identity theft. We talked to students about concerns about that. How do you go through the steps in dealing with that if you think that's happened to you? So a wide variety of financial topics we can talk to them about.
All right, so is there certain programs that you offer for these students?
Yeah, so we actually engage with students in two main ways. One being outreach programming through the community on UND's campus, partnerships with other areas on campus, career services, study abroad, student account services, those things that you would make those connections with. And then we also do one-to-one consultations where a student is able to sit down with a trained peer educator and talk about their individualized concerns and their finances. whether it be budgeting or those students who have those questions about student loans.
All right, so what do you think is the students, like some students' biggest mistake when trying to pay for college?
I think the biggest mistake is being not being proactive. So really thinking ahead of the game and where you're at, and that can be difficult sometimes, but one of the things that I recommend is right now students are thinking a lot about next semester in terms of classes. Looking at what classes are available, what am I registering for, and I say, hey, it's also a really good time to check in about where you are financially. What's your plan for paying for next semester? What might you need to consider? Looking ahead in terms of scholarships and grants and things like that you don't have to pay back. It's always better than then considering loans where you might feel like you have to do that more if you're looking last minute.
Okay, so what do you think is like the normal financial state students come in your office? Like what do you see as like the general aspect of that?
I think that students come to our office kind of in a wide range of situations. We love when we see students come in who are being really proactive and saying, you know, it's October, but I'm thinking about how I'm going to pay my bill in January. And we want to talk to you about those things, and that's great. We also see students who say, ooh, I don't know if I really thought this through as well as I should have this semester. I need to figure out how to handle this certain concern right now. But then we try to aim saying, here's how we can help you with that. But how do you think forward for the next semester? Kind of get them thinking proactively for the next part of their college career.
Okay, so I know you guys have like a 5-step plan. What is the 5 steps that take part in that?
Yeah, so the 5 steps, we really frame that usually around creating a budget, or what I'd rather call a spending plan, because budget just sounds negative. And the first part of that is really looking at your financial goals and priorities, and we really use that as a framework of any discussion with a student, no matter if it's budgeting or student loans. What are your goals? Why do you need to do this financially? But if you are looking at budgeting, the next step would then be, what are your financial resources? Do you have a job? Did you get some student loans? Do you have a refund? Do you have some help from your parents? Where are you at with your financial resources? Then 3 and 4 kind of go interchangeably. Tracking your expenses is really key, knowing what are you spending every month, every week, and then you're creating a financial plan based on knowing what you tend to spend. It's going to make it feel less restrictive. And then the last step is, did it work? Do I need to make changes? And if so, that's okay. And everyone really should be revisiting their financial goals and plans pretty consistently.
All right, so I know UND got ranked 14 out of 700 for like lowest loan default rates. Why do you think that is?
So I think there's a few reasons that UND is ranked so well in what's called the cohort default rate, which is a federal measure of students repaying their federal loans. And one being that Midwestern states in general tended to be higher on that list. I think in part because we've had some strong economies in the last few years, North Dakota included, but also the fact that our financial aid office and our office, Financial Wellness, has been really proactive in communicating with students about making a plan for when they go into repayment.
Okay, so I know you help students make a plan, but when it comes closer to graduation, do you change that plan, say if they came to you earlier, like freshman year?
So I think the plan would change if they came to us earlier, say freshman year, in the way that they could actually think more concisely about what do I actually need to be borrowing, and planning ahead and saying if I borrow this much my freshman year, my payment would look like this, and if I consistently borrow at that rate, you know, my payment would generally look like this. Whereas if you're coming to us right before graduation, you've already taken out most of your loans. You've already kind of figured out where you're at, whether you've thought it through before or not. You have that amount of debt, and then we go off of that information in creating a plan for them.
All right, so one last question. What is your biggest advice to undergraduate students paying for college and taking out loans?
I think the biggest thing, like I said earlier, is being proactive, coming in, talking to someone in our office, saying what are my options, how can I look for those scholarships, those grants, those things I don't have to pay back first, and really considering those before loans. And then if you have to take out loans, which a lot of students do, and that's okay, but how can I be as responsible with that borrowing as I can be?
All right, well thanks for joining us today, Renee.
All right, thanks so much, Morgan.
Homes come in all shapes and sizes and change from culture to culture. Coming up, learn how one artist is using a form of shelter as her canvas.
Studio One closed captioning is underwritten in part by Options, your disability information source.
not the size of the woman in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the woman.
North Dakota is facing challenges in healthcare delivery. The University of North Dakota School of Medicine and Health Sciences is building a place to help meet the state's healthcare needs. In addition to a new structure, we're also building interaction between healthcare professionals while building a workforce through expanding class sizes. We're inspiring our youth to engage in healthcare careers and exploring ways to reduce disease. It starts here and ends here, building a better future for North Dakota.
Really admire the faculty. They're the ones that kind of helped push me through this.
Courses are hands-on and interactive. The communication program has so many different facets to it. One of the great things about the staff in the communication department is that they love what they do. They encourage you to really critically think and analyze everything you're learning. They're so into it, and it makes you want to be into it.
To have the future you want and a career you'll be proud of, you'll need a great education. The University of North Dakota can get you there with more than 225 degree programs, preparing you for today's fastest growing, high demand careers, like medicine and health professions, aerospace, business, engineering, and energy. Schedule your campus visit today at und.edu/go, because to succeed, you need to be exceptional.
If you would like to attend a live show, go to our website at studio1.und.edu.
A small-town girl becomes a superstar overnight when a video of her singing hits the internet. She's then forced between her sisters and her dreams. Gem in the Hologrounds is a story of a band of sisters that find the fun and fame, but not without the costs. The manager of the band decides that they want Gem, but not the rest of the family. One of the themes of the movie is the power of social media.
I don't think that we've had something really comment on social media and about how it can be bad and consuming, but and also how it can be great and forming like a connection.
Gem in the Holograms is a spin-off of the 80s cartoon and features bright scenes with colorful costumes. Director John True brought in Justin Bieber's manager to help with the entertainment aspect of the movie. Gem in the Holograms is released October 23rd with a PG rating. A diploma is not the only thing college students will leave campus with this year. The monthly cost for graduates to repay loans for tuition is now close to $400. A Gallup-produced index survey says that 38% of recent graduates agreed that their education was worth the price. We wanted your thoughts on whether college is worth the money.
Even though it took some time to pay off the tuition from both undergrad and my master's program, it was definitely worth it.
No, I don't, because my husband is 50 and still paying back student loans.
I definitely think so, just because I will learn so many things over this 8 years I have to be here that I probably will not learn anywhere else.
Right now I'm not sure because I've not been offered a job, so I have no clue if it's actually worth the money I'm investing, but hopefully at the end of the day it's worth the investment.
You're not going to find a job right away if you don't have experience in order to pay back those student loans.
No, I don't, because I think the cost of education has gone up to the point where once somebody graduates from college, they have to make such a great income.
A comment on Facebook from Lucas in New Brunswick, Canada. I don't believe you have to go to college to be successful, but I do believe that education is well worth it, whether it gets you a career or not. John from Lakeville, Minnesota says, do you want to work your entire life as a blue-collar employee? I was one, and now I'm retired. I worked some really strange hours, and it took a toll on me. So yes, get all the education you can.
There are many forms of art, big, small, and others in between. One artist found a new type of canvas for her next masterpiece.
When Katie Lee was a teenager, a locksmith was working on doors at her home. He noticed her painting and commented on her work. A couple weeks later, she got a knock on her door.
And it was the same locksmith, and he had a big, giant canvas that he brought, and he said, "This is for you," and he just said, "I think you're going to be a really great artist someday."
Katie has been painting ever since and has made it her profession. Her latest piece is a colorful, creative, and impressive 18-foot tall teepee. Katie says there are challenges to working on a teepee.
You kind of need everything to be pointing to the center as you go around.
This unique canvas needs a different type of paint and tools.
It's an exterior acrylic paint that I use, and it needed to be kind of flexible because I'm going to have to roll it up and haul it and take it down and all that.
Katie avoids traditional paintbrushes and instead uses a palette knife and oil paint to decorate the teepee. While art is Katie's passion, it also fulfills her spiritually.
It's almost kind of like a form of meditation. Like you sit in a room and you're kind of doing a constant thing, and it's actually really soothing. I feel like it's like healthy for the soul.
Years ago, one man's kind action encouraged Katie to make her art into something more. Today, her inspiration has spread across canvases big, small, and teepee-sized. I'm Nicholas Moen reporting for Studio One.
The teepee's design was inspired by the recent blood moon. Katie says it should be complete by the end of the month. Morgan, I noticed that she was freehanding that. That would be so difficult.
Yeah, but it looks like it's turning out beautifully.
Definitely.
Thanks, Kari. Now Emily joins us in the studio with a final look at the weather. Emily?
Thanks, Morgan. As we look at our temperatures for the next week, the western part of the United States is going to be pretty hot, with the eastern part being a little bit cooler. For precipitation for the next week, most of that's going to hang out down around the southeastern part of the United States, with the upper Midwest being pretty dry. As we go, and that brings us back to our weather question of the week. What state grows the most pumpkins in the United States? That is actually Illinois. And the town of Peoria, Illinois actually is the town that grows the most pumpkins in the country. And Morgan, most of our pumpkin crop gets turned into canned pumpkins or canned pumpkin pie mix, which always makes me think of Thanksgiving at my grandma's.
Yeah, definitely. And I can't imagine how orange that town is in Illinois in the fall.
It has to look beautiful.
Definitely. Thanks, Emily. And that's our show for today. As always, you can follow us through social media or get more information on our website.
From all of us here at Studio One, have a great week.